You are here because you've been waiting, you've been imagining, affirming, trusting, and yet the silence around you feels unbearable. You wake up some days and ask yourself, is this really working? Or am I just fooling myself? You look at your life, and the evidence seems absent. The desire burns in your heart, but the world around you looks unchanged. And in those quiet, aching moments, the temptation comes, maybe I should just give up. But listen closely. That thought, that impulse to let go, to abandon your dream, it is not the truth. It is the final barrier, the test that always arrives before the breakthrough. You have been told that faith is the substance of things hoped for. Neville Goddard revealed that imagination creates reality, and yet, you wonder, if it's true, why can't I see it yet? The answer is simple. Because manifestation does not begin in the world you can touch. It begins in the unseen, the invisible dimension of consciousness. And right now, even as you listen to this, there are signs. Clear signs that your manifestation is already working. But here's the catch. These signs are subtle. They are not the loud, obvious miracles you expect. They whisper. They move quietly like shadows of a future already written. And if you don't recognize them, you may mistake progress for failure. So let me ask you something. Have you noticed the strange coincidences that keep appearing in your day? The number you keep seeing over and over, a word, a name, a song that appears out of nowhere, almost as if the universe is winking at you. Or perhaps you've felt a shift inside yourself, a softening of your doubts, a strange calm that wasn't there before. Even without proof, you feel a quiet voice saying, "It's coming, it's already yours." These are not accidents. They are the invisible fingerprints of your desire taking shape, the early tremors before the earth finally moves, the echo of a future reality pressing itself into the now. And if you hold on, if you refuse to give up, you will see it. Not because you are begging for it, not because you are working harder than anyone else, but because creation is finished. The moment you imagined, it was done. Neville once said, "Dare to believe in the reality of your assumption and watch the world play its part to fulfill it." That is why you are here, to be reminded, to be pulled back from the edge of despair, to remember that the silence you fear is not absence. It is proof. Proof that the seed has already been planted and the soil is quietly, invisibly doing its work. So, in the next moments, I will reveal to you the hidden signs, the proof you've been overlooking, the whispers of manifestation already at play in your life. And as you recognize them, something powerful will happen inside you. Your doubt will loosen its grip. Your fear will begin to dissolve. And in its place, a deeper trust will rise. The kind of trust that no circumstance can shake, because the truth is this: you are closer than you think, closer than your senses can measure, closer than your doubts can admit. And the very fact that you are here, listening now, is itself a sign. Think about it. Out of all the possible videos, out of all the possible messages, you were guided here. Why? Because something within you already knows. It is working. It has always been working, so don't give up. Not now. Not when the invisible is already turning into the visible. Stay with me until the end, because by the time we finish, you will no longer be asking, "Is it working?" You will know beyond doubt that your manifestation is alive and unstoppable. The doubt that paralyzes. You know this feeling. You've been holding on to a vision, repeating affirmations, living in the end, and yet the silence feels heavy. You ask yourself, if imagination truly creates reality, why hasn't mine changed? This question circles in your mind like a storm, pulling you into doubt. It feels like walking through fog. Every step you take, you cannot see beyond the next few inches. And when your desire seems invisible, the fog thickens until you begin to believe you are lost. But pause for a moment. Understand what is really happening here. This doubt that you feel, it is not proof of failure. It is the natural resistance of an old state of consciousness dying. You see, every assumption carries with it a momentum. The life you lived before, the identity you once wore, still lingers like a shadow. And when you begin to step into a new state, the old state resists. It fights for survival. It whispers, "Nothing is happening. Stop pretending. Go back to the way things were." But that voice is a liar. It is the echo of yesterday, not the truth of today. Neville taught that the outer world is nothing but a reflection of your inner state. And reflections take time to appear. When you stand before a mirror, the image is instant. But when you shift the state of your mind, the outer mirror of the world is slower. It lags behind. It must rearrange itself to catch up with who you now believe yourself to be. So what do you do when doubt strikes? You stop feeding it with fear. You remind yourself, this silence is not emptiness. This silence is proof that the seed has been planted. Think of a farmer. He places a seed in the ground, covers it with soil, and then waits. For days, weeks, maybe longer, there is nothing visible. Does he dig it up to check if it's growing? No, he trusts the unseen process. You are that farmer. Your desire is that seed. And the doubt you feel is nothing more than impatience, the restless urge to demand evidence before it is ready. But listen carefully. Impatience is the fastest way to choke your seed. The more you question, the more you weaken your faith. And yet, the moment you remember, creation is finished. It is already mine. Doubt loses its power. So when you feel paralyzed by silence, recognize it for what it truly is, a sign that something invisible is already moving. The stillness is not a void. It is the sacred womb of manifestation. And if you dare to hold on, if you dare to believe when your senses scream otherwise, you will break through. Because the doubt that paralyzes is only the shadow that comes before the dawn. The error of trusting only what you see. You have been trained since childhood to trust only what your eyes can see. You were told, seeing is believing. But Neville Goddard turned that phrase upside down. He revealed that in truth, believing is seeing. This is where most people stumble. They look at their bank account, their relationship, their health, and because it looks unchanged, they say, it's not working. But what they don't realize is that the world of appearances is always a delayed photograph of the past. Everything you see around you today is the echo of yesterday's assumptions. Your current world is nothing more than a shadow of your former state of mind. And if you insist on measuring your progress only by outer appearances, you are measuring the past, not the present, and certainly not the future that is already unfolding. Imagine standing in front of a mirror. You raise your hand, and the reflection follows. Now imagine that the reflection takes a few seconds to respond. Would you panic in those seconds? Would you scream, "It's broken, it doesn't work"? Of course not. You would understand there is a delay. And this is how manifestation works. The inner movement, the shift of your assumption, the new belief you embody, always comes first. The outer world follows after, in its own time. But here is the mistake. You keep staring at the outer world, demanding that it change immediately, and when it doesn't, you collapse back into doubt. This cycle repeats over and over until people finally give up. And yet, if they only held on, they would discover the truth. The mirror is never broken. It is simply delayed. You must learn to trust the invisible more than the visible. Your imagination is the seedbed of reality. What you accept as true within yourself, regardless of appearances, must externalize. It cannot fail because consciousness is the only reality. So the question becomes, what do you allow yourself to believe when the world looks unchanged? Do you surrender to the picture of the senses, or do you dare to believe in the unseen? Neville said, "Disregard appearances, conditions, in fact all evidence of your senses that deny the fulfillment of your desire." Why? Because appearances are yesterday's news, and if you keep reading yesterday's newspaper, you will never see the headline of tomorrow. Right now, your world may look ordinary, still, even hopeless, but just beneath the surface, reality is rearranging itself to match your inner state. The people, the opportunities, the timing, all of it is being woven together invisibly. And when the moment is right, it will erupt into your experience as if by magic. So stop making the error of trusting only what you see. Your senses are poor guides. Your imagination is the true navigator. And the moment you decide to live from the end, to believe in your desire as if it is already yours, you release the need for evidence. And that is when evidence comes. Remember this, your outer world is not the cause. It is the effect. Change the cause and the effect must follow. It may be delayed, but it is certain. So the next time your eyes tempt you with disappointment, smile and whisper to yourself, "I know better. I do not walk by sight, I walk by faith. My world is already changing." The first sign, coincidences and synchronicities. One of the earliest signs that your manifestation is working comes disguised as coincidence. A stranger says the very phrase you've been repeating in your mind. A song on the radio echoes the desire you carry in your heart. You glance at the clock, and there it is again, the repeating numbers, almost mocking you with their persistence. Most people shrug these off. They say, "That's just chance, that's nothing." But you know better. You feel it in your bones, and these are not accidents. Synchronicities are the universe's way of whispering, "Keep going, it's unfolding." They are like trail markers on a hidden path, guiding you forward even when the destination remains out of sight. Think about it. Your consciousness has shifted. You are no longer living in the same mental state you once did. And because your inner world has changed, your outer world must rearrange itself to reflect that change. The first evidence is often subtle, little cracks in the old reality, hints that a new story is pushing through. It is as if the world is winking at you, testing whether you are paying attention. Do you notice? Do you recognize the pattern? Or do you dismiss it as random noise? This is where awareness becomes your greatest ally. When you begin to see these small signs, you strengthen your faith. You begin to trust the invisible process even more, and that trust accelerates the unfolding. Let me ask you directly, have you noticed these signs in your own life? The unexpected conversations, the chance meetings, the strange alignments that make you pause for a moment and smile? If you have, write them in the comments below, not just for yourself, but for others who are walking this same path. Your story might be the sign that keeps someone else from giving up tonight, because synchronicities are contagious. When one person shares their experience, it multiplies the faith of everyone who hears it. And faith is the very power that keeps the invisible alive until it appears. So the next time you see a coincidence, don't brush it aside. Pause, acknowledge it. Whisper to yourself, "This is my sign. My desire is already in motion." You see, the world outside you is not dead matter. It is alive, responsive, pliable. It bends to the assumptions you carry within, and those little winks of synchronicity are the first ripples of a much greater wave that is already on its way. Do not ignore them. They are proof that the bridge of incidents is already being built. One small event will lead to another and another, until finally the invisible becomes visible. Coincidences are never coincidences. They are the whispers of your future, calling you closer, step by step. The second sign, inner changes in mind and heart. Another sign, often overlooked, is the quiet transformation that happens within you. Before the outer world shifts, you begin to notice subtle changes in your inner world. The thoughts that once haunted you with fear lose their sharp edge. The anxiety that once clung to you like a shadow begins to fade, and without effort, You find yourself thinking differently, speaking differently, even feeling differently. This is not random. This is the first evidence that your assumption is taking root. Because when you step into a new state of consciousness, the old state begins to dissolve. Your inner atmosphere changes before the landscape of your life does. Think of it like the seasons. Long before the first flower blooms, the air begins to shift. You feel the warmth rising, the light lasting longer each day. The world has not yet revealed spring in full, but you know it is coming. Why? Because you can feel it. The same is true with manifestation. When your inner dialogue begins to soften, when your mood begins to lift, when you find yourself no longer clinging to fear but leaning into trust, that is spring announcing itself inside you. Perhaps you've noticed moments when you react differently than you used to. Someone criticizes you, and instead of collapsing, you feel strangely calm. A situation that once filled you with dread now feels lighter, less threatening. This is not you changing by effort. This is your new state of consciousness expressing itself. Neville said, "A change of circumstance happens as soon as we succeed in changing our inner conversations." So if your inner voice has begun to shift, if it now speaks with more peace, more certainty, more faith, then your manifestation is already working. The outer change is inevitable, because the root has already been replaced. Do not underestimate this sign. Many people miss it, dismiss it, and say, "Nothing has happened yet." But you know better. The inner shift is the truest sign of all, because everything external is born from the internal. Pay attention to how your heart feels. Pay attention to the new kinds of thoughts that rise without effort. Notice the ease where once there was only struggle. These are not accidents. They are the evidence of a deeper alignment taking hold. And the more you nurture this inner shift, the faster the outer world must catch up. For as within, so without. So when you feel calmer than before, when you find yourself smiling without reason, when your thoughts feel gentler, lighter, clearer, stop and remind yourself, this is it. This is my proof. My manifestation is already alive within me. The third sign, the strange confidence without evidence. There comes a moment, quiet and almost unexplainable, when you begin to feel a strange sense of confidence. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It does not come with fireworks or visions. It is a stillness, a knowing that rises inside you without reason. You look at your life, and on the surface, nothing has changed. The same walls, the same circumstances, the same unanswered prayers, and yet something in you feels different. You no longer beg for it. You no longer chase it. Instead, you rest. You breathe. You feel deep in your chest, it's already mine. This is one of the clearest signs that your manifestation is working. It is the silent arrival of faith, not as an effort, but as a natural state. You see, in the beginning, you tried to convince yourself. You repeated affirmations over and over. You imagined with effort, straining to believe. But now, without trying, the belief feels natural. It lives in you like the air you breathe. Neville called this living in the end. It is the state where your desire no longer feels distant. It feels here, present, part of you. Even when the outer world denies it, you cannot be shaken. Have you felt this? That quiet confidence that doesn't make sense? That peace that comes without evidence? If you have, recognize it for what it is. The arrival of your new state of consciousness. It is like a key turning in a lock. The moment you feel it, the door is already opening. The world must follow, because your inner world has settled into its truth. And here's something important. This peace is not weakness, it is power. It is the very power that bends the world to your assumption. It is the hidden force that carries you across the bridge of incidents without fear. If you are beginning to feel this shift, if this message is stirring that quiet confidence inside you, pause right now and subscribe. Why? Because staying connected to this teaching strengthens your faith. And when your faith grows, your manifestation unfolds faster. Remember, doubt feeds on isolation. Faith grows when you surround yourself with truth. So choose today to anchor yourself in this message again and again. Because that strange confidence, that unshakable calm, is not just a feeling. It is the evidence that your assumption has already taken root. And when the root is secure, the fruit must appear. So the next time you notice this peace rising within you, don't dismiss it, don't question it, rest in it, celebrate it. Say to yourself, this is my proof. The world has no choice but to catch up with what I already know. The silence of creation. There is a stage in manifestation that feels like nothing. No signs, no movement, no whispers of progress, just silence. This silence is the place where most people give up. They panic. They assume that nothing is happening, that all their imagining has been wasted. And so they abandon the state they once dared to enter. But what if I told you that this silence is not absence, it is proof? Proof that creation is already at work, beneath the surface, in ways your senses cannot measure. Think of the seed in the ground. For weeks, perhaps months, there is nothing visible, but below the soil, life is unfolding, roots stretching, cells dividing, energy gathering. The silence above is the disguise of furious activity beneath. Your manifestation works in the same way. The stillness you feel is not the end. It is the sacred womb of becoming. Neville called this the bridge of incidents. He explained that once you have assumed the end, the world begins to move in hidden ways to make that end inevitable. But here is the key. You are not shown the bridge in advance. You are not given the map. You are asked only to walk in faith, step by step, through the silence. And this silence can feel heavy, it can feel endless. But if you dare to remain still, if you dare to refuse the urge to dig up your seed, something extraordinary happens. Out of nowhere, the first sprout breaks through the soil, and when it does, it seems sudden, but it was never sudden. It was the result of everything that happened in secret. So when you feel the silence pressing in, remember this: silence is not the enemy. It is the sign that the invisible is already rearranging. It is the invisible hand setting the stage, aligning people, places, and events. And when the curtain finally rises, you will see that every second of stillness was necessary. The question is not, is it happening? The question is, can you remain faithful in the silence? This is where true mastery lies. Anyone can believe when the evidence is clear, but the one who believes in the quiet, in the void, in the stillness, that is the one who discovers that nothing is impossible. So do not fear the silence. Do not mistake it for emptiness. Welcome it as a sign that your desire has been planted deeply and is now taking root. Whisper to yourself in those still moments, even in silence it is done. Even in silence I'm already who I chose to be. Because in the silence of creation, the greatest miracles are born. Living in the end. This is Neville Goddard's greatest secret, the essence of his teaching. The one truth that separates those who wait forever from those who finally see their desires fulfilled. It is simple, but not always easy. Live in the end. What does that mean? It means you stop asking, when will it come? It means you stop imagining the process, the steps, the waiting. Instead, you place yourself directly in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You see yourself already there. You feel yourself already being the person who has it. And you refuse to step out of that state, no matter what your senses say. Most people live in the middle. They imagine halfway, always waiting, always searching for signs. But the one who lives in the end rests in the finished result. And because consciousness is the only reality, the world has no choice but to rearrange itself to mirror that end. Think about it. When you read a novel, you do not doubt that the ending is written. You may not know every detail of the story, but you trust the author has completed it. Your manifestation is no different. The end is already written. Creation is finished. And by living in that end, you align yourself with the page where your desire is already real. So ask yourself, what does it feel like to have it already? Not tomorrow, not one day. Now, how do you walk? How do you speak? How do you see the world when your desire is already yours? Close your eyes. Step into that feeling. Rest there. Make it your home. This is the key Neville gave to all who listened. The world is nothing more than yourself pushed out. And if you persist in living in the end, the outer world must bend to reflect it. Yes, doubts will come. Yes, silence will test you. Yes, appearances will try to shake you, but none of these matter when you anchor yourself in the end. For the end is unshakable. The end is certain. If this truth is touching you now, if you feel the power of living in the end, pause for a moment. Like this video, not just as a gesture but as a declaration. I am living in the end. It is done. Your engagement strengthens this message, spreads it to others, and affirms your decision to remain in faith. Because when you live in the end, you step into the greatest secret of all. You are not waiting for your desire. You are already living it. And the world, sooner or later, must bow to that truth. The final call not to give up. This is the moment where most turn back. They have imagined, affirmed, trusted. They have seen signs, felt changes, even tasted peace. And yet, when the outer world still looks unchanged, they begin to doubt again. This is the edge, the final test, the thin line between fulfillment and surrendering to failure. And I'm here to tell you, do not give up, not now, not when you are closer than ever. Think of the seed once more. The soil is darkest just before the sprout breaks through. The silence is deepest just before the sound arrives. The night is coldest just before dawn. Your manifestation often follows this same rhythm. The pressure builds, the doubt screams louder, and everything in you wants to quit. But that moment is not the end. It is the sign that the birth is near. Neville said, persist in the assumption that your wish is fulfilled, and it will harden into fact. Persistence, that is the key. Not effort, not struggle, but the quiet, steady decision to hold your state no matter what. So ask yourself, will you persist? Will you dare to believe when your senses deny it? Will you remain faithful when the silence feels endless? Because if you do, the reward is inevitable. The world will bend, circumstances will shift, and what once seemed impossible will appear as if it had been there all along. But this only happens for the one who refuses to quit, for the one who understands that giving up is the only way to fail. Because once the seed is planted, it must grow, unless you uproot it with doubt. So this is your call. This is your reminder. Do not give up. Do not retreat. Do not abandon the state you have already entered. You are closer than your senses can measure, closer than your doubts can admit, closer than your fear can accept. And when it finally arrives, when your manifestation blossoms before your very eyes, you will look back on this moment and realize the silence, the waiting, the doubt. It was all part of the process. It was all the shadow that comes before the light. So breathe deeply, stand tall, whisper to yourself, I persist. I live in the end. I will not give up. Because the one who refuses to quit is the one who sees the impossible become inevitable. The unshakable proof. You have walked through the silence. You have faced the doubt. You have learned to stop trusting only what your eyes can see. And now you recognize the signs that your manifestation is already alive. The coincidences, the inner shifts, the strange confidence that settles without reason. The quiet power of silence itself, the command to live in the end, and finally, the call to persist, to never give up. These are not just words. They are the fingerprints of creation itself. They are the whispers of the future already pressing into your present moment. So now, take a breath. Let yourself feel the weight of what you have heard, not as information, but as truth. Because everything you desire already exists. Creation is finished. The only task left is to remain faithful to the end you have already claimed. When you notice coincidences, don't dismiss them. Smile. Say to yourself, my world is moving. The bridge is unfolding. When your thoughts begin to soften, when your heart feels lighter, recognize it as evidence. The old state is dissolving. The new state is alive. When you feel that strange, unexplainable confidence, rest in it. It is the very proof that your desire is now your reality. The outer must follow, because the inner has already shifted. And when silence comes, welcome it. Do not mistake it for emptiness. Silence is the soil. Silence is the womb. Silence is the proof that life is already forming beneath the surface. Above all, live in the end. Do not live in waiting, in hoping, in reaching. Live in the finished result. Feel it now. Rest in it now. Carry yourself as if it is already done, because in truth it is. And when the temptation to give up rises, when the pressure feels unbearable, remind yourself, this is the sign I am closest of all. The night is always darkest before the dawn, and the dawn is inevitable. Neville once said, your assumption, if persisted in, will harden into fact. That is not poetry, that is law, unbreakable, unstoppable, eternal. So stand firm. Do not abandon your state. Do not surrender to appearances. Do not let silence trick you into despair. Instead, let every sign strengthen you. Let every moment of doubt remind you that the old state is dying. Let every whisper of confidence anchor you deeper in faith. Because the truth is this, you cannot fail unless you give up. And if you refuse to give up, your desire must appear, not as chance, not as luck, but as law. Now, take this with you. Carry it in your heart as you move through your day. Let every coincidence be a wink from the universe. Let every moment of silence be a reminder of growth. Let every breath remind you, I am already living in the end. And know this, you are not alone on this path. Countless others are walking it with you, sharing the same doubts, facing the same silence, discovering the same signs. Together, you are the living proof of Neville's teaching. Imagination creates reality. So do not give up. Not now, not ever. Because the very fact that you are here, listening to these words, is itself a sign. You were guided here for a reason, and that reason is simple. Your manifestation is already alive. Now hold to it, rest in it, live in it, and watch as the world bends to your inner truth. Because your desire is not on its way, it is already yours. And soon the world will reveal it. Until then, persist, believe, live in the end. And in the next video, we will go even deeper, exploring how to accelerate this process when it feels unbearably slow, and how to stay in faith when everything seems against you. But for now, remember this. You are imagining right now, and what you imagine, you become.